So I think we're on now.
Okay.
Now we can, I think we're on this mic, so hello everybody.
Camera. Good morning.
This is Brandon Carpenter from Hash Knife Ranch. This is our new horse, Mystery. Welcome.
Well, thank you. Yeah, Mystery is, he's 4 years old. He was 4 years old in August, and he has not had a lot of handling. We imprinted him when he was a foal. As soon as he foaled, we let him nurse the mother and make that good solid maternal bond. And that's part of what we do with our program is get our hands on them right away so that they're not fearful of people. They bond with the mother first. That's absolutely critical. You don't want to disturb that. But then we just want to put ourselves into the mix of having the horse be familiar with people, not afraid of people. And we do everything with them. We touch them all over, pick them up, pick their feet up. I mean, literally pick them off the ground, cradle them, hold them. You don't do that for very long, but because they grow very quickly. So I had that 10 days or so, and then he gets turned out with his mother. And in about this time of year, or a little later, he was later because he was a later colt. I mean, typically foal in April and May. This guy was a little later, so he got weaned at about 5 months. And from there, separated from his mother. And kept him separate for about, another 6-8 months. And then he was turned with some other yearlings. Spent another year as pasture mates there, and then he's turned out with a larger herd. So at 4 years old, he's been with a larger herd of about 30 head for 2 years, and really had almost nothing done with him except bring him in, catch him, worm him, periodically, and then just check him over, look him, make sure everybody's healthy. You do that normally, but so this is more handling than he's had in all of that time. He's actually doing pretty well.
So when you have him in to worm him, you just do that and check him over and let him out?
That's right. Yep.
Oh.
Yep. So that handling, they're in a corral, kind of like this, and then we catch them one at a time. And so we really I like to be able to handle them more, but this gives them the ability to have that socialization with all of the other herd members. So you're really starting with almost like it's a feral horse. It's not, but it's almost like that because the handling is so minimal, and we rely heavily on that initial week to 10 days. And see, he's just a little anxious. He just wants to do something. So that initial week to 10 days really makes a huge impression on them, and kind of forms them for that, taking the edge off of that fight or flight. And with horses, it's mainly flight instinct, so that he's not super scared. And you'll see how he's very
come over here,
oral and mouthing. He licks, and you'll notice you'll watch him. His lower lip will quiver a little bit. He's just got some anxiety like that. He's got some anxiety this morning, like just exactly like that. That's just how he's displaying that. So this will be fun. It'll be interesting, but it's like starting with a fresh horse that has never had anything done to him, because they do revert to that when in that fear that mode. Yeah, look at that. See how he's coming into me like this, which is a really good sign. You want the horse to, I want them to keep their own space and keep out of my space, but notice how he's finding some comfort by coming in with us, that's a very good sign. He wants to be able to be comfortable, and if you're the one that provides that comfort, that's a huge step in the bonding process.
I don't know if we were mic'd up when we were talking about this, but I had mentioned it was interesting. He's not pushy. He's persistent about coming in and
that's right,
being protected, but he's not pushy about it.
You're exactly right. And yeah, he could be pushing me all over, and now he's really more focused on that other horse, and I just kind of pushed him away. But yeah, he's insistent that he comes in, but he's not belligerent about it. He's not, because they can be dangerous. There's four things that a horse does that is dangerous. And one of them is a push, and see, that's what he's doing right now, is he's pushing on me. And people don't recognize what a push is. The other thing is they'll bite, and then they'll strike with the front. Now he's doing that striking motion, but it's not out of aggression. What he's doing, he is just wanting to move, and he's a little bit frustrated. And of course, the last thing is the kick with the hinds, is what most people really see as an aggressive thing. But this is a pushing action. If I was to continue to let this happen and let him come in and see I push him back, he's learning that he has to have a boundary. But he's pushing into me a little bit now, and it's kind of welcome in a way because I understand why he's pushing, but I can't allow him to keep doing it because it'll get worse and worse and worse, and the next thing you know, he's bumping you with his shoulder, he's pushing you with his head, and he's banging you with his head, and those are all really, really huge passive-aggressive behaviors that determine the relationship between you and him. And if you allow him to dominate and do what he wants, that's the beginning of the end. You cannot let them do what they want. You have to make them do what you want, and to keep yourself safe. He starts to move. See, notice how they're leaning forward. So
Yeah,
his
weight is
yep.
always forward.
If he's leaning forward, he's thinking forward, and he has to do that first. So you want to correct all of their behavior in this thinking stage there, just like that. He's thinking about it. It's easier to correct the thought than it is to correct the physical movement, and that is a lesson for everything throughout their training. And when I say their training really is over when they take their last breath of their life. I don't care how good they are; they can always learn, and they will always try to push themselves or better themselves in a herd hierarchy by being able to be more dominant. And just like this guy, there we go. Good boy. That's better. Look at him look at me. It's all right.
He really is processing.
Good. He's super processing. That's exactly right. And you watch his eyes, that lower lip, he's a little anxious, but watch these eyes. When we correct him, he'll blink. I'll just push him back a little bit just for the heck of it. Now watch him. He'll stand here and watch him blink. Blink, blink, blink. There we go.
And you mentioned when we visited you at your ranch this summer about blinking. You did a little round pen demonstration.
Yeah.
That there's a difference between a horse just blinking and really blinking hard and thinking.
Yes.
Can you explain that a little bit?
Have you ever watched somebody when you're talking with them and you're making eye contact and you're talking about something and they understand it, and you'll notice we do it. We'll blink and it's a processing. And they do the same thing. They'll blink and they'll blink a lot, and they'll blink a really deep, I call it a deep blink, which is really a very forceful blink. And they'll do that when they have learned or they're processing something. And when they do that, that's just a sign to you. It's something to watch for their behavior, that this horse is starting to understand or beginning to at least think about what you want in a different way than what they thought before. And so that is very important, the way they carry their ears. If they're listening to you, of course, this guy, he's listening to some horse activity over here. He's pushing in a little bit. There we go. And see, now, just like that. See, I corrected him, and watch his lower lip when he corrected him. He's a little anxious. He wants to come in. Look at that. But he's dropping his head, and he's asking to come in. Another behavior. So that's good. But all of these they're signs that they are processing. The licking and chewing when we work on him a little bit later on, you'll notice that. Head bobs, those are all signs of submission or processing. And it's very, very important to watch those subtle cues. Look at him, he's thinking forward, but he didn't move. That's very good. He's starting to learn.
Lower, too.
Yep, and his head's lower, he's coming in, and he's content now. He's a smart guy. And yeah, the look around, I'm okay with that, you know. They need to know their surroundings. They're a prey animal, so you know, them being aware of where they're at and what's around them is very important for their security. Now watch, let's just move him around a little bit. Come over here.
I'm going to shut that gate.
Yeah, that'd be good. And we back him up, and we'll just kind of pull him around in a circle. I'll kind of move his hind end around a little bit. See how I'm just kind of pushing his hind end around. Come back up, and we'll back him up. I'll just put pressure my body towards him. Back him over here. And just small things, and then we'll watch his behavior, see what he does. Lower lip, big sigh.
He's licking.
Chewing. Look at that, all dropping his head. All signs of submission and processing. Look at that, he wants to come forward, but he backs up. Really, really good. I mean, he's really smart. Just a little bit of moving around like that. So how we interact with him and what we do with him is a huge influence on how they perceive us and how, whether this is positive or not for them, and if they've done the right thing. They really want to please. They really want to do the right thing for you, and they like to be praised. They like to know that they have contributed, because right now we have a herd here. From his perspective, we're a herd of horses with that behavior. It's the only behavior he really knows. So we're going to teach him human behavior by repetition and some of it by voice. But we have to speak his language in order to teach him to interact in our world. But it's still, to him, it's a herd of horses. That's his only perspective.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's important that we pick up on that horse language. We have to know what they do, how they speak, what they mean when they do things, and why they're doing it. And if we just interact with a horse and we miss all of that, we miss huge training opportunities. We miss where we're not getting it, and we need to go back and correct what we're doing to get through to them. Yeah, this is really good. He's really calm. He's really settling into this is what is expected of him. Good. Look at his eyes. See how the eye softens?
Yeah.
He's really, and there's chewing again. Good boy. And when they do that, praise him. Good boy. And I really didn't do that much while we were talking, but, well, I was talking. But you'll notice how he's much more relaxed, and he's trying to move in. Good boy. But that his eye is softer, quieter. Good boy.
So on a slightly different topic, you mentioned that he's basically feral. You've imprinted him, you've turned him out with the herd. Now he's 4, and he's ready for training.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people start riding their horses at 3 years old, pretty heavily.
Yeah.
What's your opinion on that, and why don't you do that with your horses?
That's an excellent question. I have trained a lot of 2-year-old horses, and when you do that, you have to be extremely careful with how much pressure you're putting on their physically on their body. Mentally, it is so easy to train a 2-year-old because that brain is so malleable. You can do anything you want very quickly. As they get older, just as we do, like teenagers, we're very difficult to deal with. I mean, we've got our own ideas about what the world should be like, and they do too. So there's an advantage to going with a 2-year-old mentally, but physically they can't really carry us in the manner in which we want them to. My grandpa used to tell me a good rule of thumb that they always had is that you could ride a mile out and a mile back, and that is it in a day. That doesn't take a lot of time to do that. So what we're really concerned with this maturity is that their bones are still growing. These long bones are maturing, their knees especially, and their skeletal frame really, it matures from the feet up. And so the last thing to stop, or our knees have, the growth plates are closing. If you do damage to those, you can damage the horse and shorten their life. They mature from the ground up. The last thing to mature on a horse is their back, usually at about 5 to 5.5 years old. That's when all of the growth plates are completely closed. So at 4 or 3 even, you can do a lot of riding with them, but you got to be careful with them even still. You're very light. I probably outweigh you by 100 pounds. So I especially have to really watch how much work I do on these on a younger horse. And that's why we've kind of waited on him. He's a smaller horse anyway. He's a kind of you said this morning he's petite, and he is.
Mm-hmm.
So he's not like a big bruiser even at 4 years old. So when I have a horse that's very small, I'll wait an extra year like him. I would have started him a year ago, but he's smaller, so we'll wait, let him mature more so we don't hurt him. The other end of that spectrum is a very large young horse will mature slower also. So you want to wait for them as well, because you can hurt either one of those, the very large ones and the very small ones. But that's why we wait. We tend to wait basically for them to grow so that we don't hurt them. There's a lot of different philosophies to that. I'm really in it for the horse. I mean, if I just was to train a lot of horses and I just grab them at 2 and train them and get them gone and sold them and I didn't care, that would be one thing, but it's not the case. You really need to consider the horse first. It's their life too. They're a valuable animal.
Mm-hmm.
They depend on us. They're much like a child where they're completely dependent on us, really. Like right now, we supply his water, his food, everything, his safety, everything is here uh, in his for his benefit, but we provide it. If he's out on his own in a pasture, he provides that. So we're responsible for these horses, and if you handle a horse, you're still responsible for them, regardless of the situation. We want to do the best for the horse, because if they're happy, then we can have a happy interaction with them, or a life with them.
Now, just a second ago, and he was standing there quietly, and then put his head down, and you backed him up, just like that.
Good boy.
That's a good thing that
It's a great thing.
He's submitting.
He's submitting. That's
but
exactly.
But you still
right.
backed him up.
Yep.
So you're just saying thank you, but
reinforcing it.
Still.
Yeah, that's right. That's great, but yeah, you still have to have your space, and really you have to be an absolute. I call it being a Nazi about things. I have to make this horse do exactly what I want them to do, and I have to give them what they need, not what they want. He would love to come in here and then just stand right very close to us, but that's not good boy. That's not what he needs. He needs to learn this spatial relationship that I'm here for him. See, look at that. I can put my hand up here fairly fast, and he doesn't shy his head. He's not afraid of me, but he also needs to respect that I am a dominant member of the herd. And they come up to those dominant members of the herds, and they ask to come in, just as he's doing. That's really what we're seeing is some herd behavior, and that's why I allow it, but I still have to push him away and teach him that he'll get away with everything he can, just like a young child does. If they are able to get what they want, they're going to want more and more and more.
Do you feel like that's comes from curiosity or a natural tendency to want to dominate?
More of it is a natural tendency to dominate. It's a herd behavior, because if the horse can be more dominant in a group of horses, back up, if he can do that, he gets rewarded for that. And the reward is he gets to have the nicest grass, the best, the most lush grass, because he'll walk in and he'll take it, and he'll run the other horses off. He gets to drink first. He gets to have as much of his fill of water as he wants. He gets shade in the summertime. He gets to stand under whatever tree or whatever's providing shade, and the others will be out around him. He gets to have, when the wind's blowing, a spot where he could be out of the wind, and the others may not. Those are all benefits for his survival. He'll last longer. He'll live longer. He gets all of these perks of having more and more benefit. And in order to do that, it's all about dominance. It's who gets to say that I get to have this. I do. And if I'm as a dominant member of the herd, say, no, this is mine, you've got this struggle, and that struggle is continual, and it's necessary, because it's a natural flow of the herd dynamic, because we don't stay on as a top dog forever. As we age, then we start to lose our hierarchy, and others come up, but you all as a herd, you benefit and have the benefit, and the welfare of the herd is the utmost, because even though a horse is the least dominant member of the herd, if for some reason they sense a dangerous situation, we'll say in this country we have mountain lions and bears. If a mountain lion comes near the herd, and that least dominant member of, say, 30 horses all of a sudden just makes a warning noise, blows out his nose and spins and runs, the entire herd will follow him, unquestioned, because it's the welfare and the benefit of the herd is there. So they listen to each other, but they interact with each other, and then they get to have the benefits all throughout that hierarchy. And if you watch these guys, if we were to turn them loose, and we had other horses in here, and I was to discipline him, he would go to the next, or a horse that was less dominant to him, and he would go and discipline that horse. So it's like a bunch of playground children, where if you discipline one, they're like, oh, that wasn't great. Well, I'm going to have to discipline somebody else, and it will just work right on down the line. Not everyone will be affected, but some will be affected in that. Excuse me. So yeah, this is really good stuff that he wants to come in. He wants to bond. He's nice and quiet. I have had horses that are like this, they're scared, and they just don't want to be around you, and they're overwhelmed, and that's really all it is. And so to provide this comfort for him and provide a safety is really what he wants, and it's all he needs. That, and I'll love on him a little bit, and then I'm going to set him up a little bit. No, see, I'm going to move away and see if he'll come to me, but I want him to stand, because I want to be able to say, no, you stay where you're at. I'll move away and you stay. So, see how he does that? So I back him up. There we go. And now I stay back. Good. There we go. And all I got to do is just kind of push the energy in my body towards him, and then he'll stop. There we go. And see, we have this seesaw back and forth. Nope. But it's important and necessary for him to learn. Look at it. Now look at that lower lip. He's going to want to come in. He wants to come in. He's looking. He's figuring a way he can. So I'm going to back him up when he takes a step. One more step. There we go. Good boy. Now when he stands, good boy. Look at him relax a little bit. He starts to come forward. I'm gonna correct him, and he'll learn. I mean, they learn very quickly. Look at that lower lip. Good boy. And when he does what I want, I need to praise him. Good boy.
Do you feel like he's trying to leave the moment right now?
Look at the chewing.
Sorry,
Sorry, I'm going to interrupt you, but yeah, look at the
fine.
chewing, the licking, all signs of processing. Good boy. I'm sorry.
So he starts looking around.
Mm-hmm.
Only after it seems like he figures out, okay, I can't come near you. Then he starts looking around, almost like he wants to leave the situation.
Yeah, and he may be. Look at that. That's anxiety. Anxiety leaving his body and his mental state. Yeah, part of that is it can be just simply being distracted. Other things can be like, okay, I need to kind of decompress from what's happening right here. And notice the yawning. Look at that.
A lot.
A lot. That's anxiety. That's really working through this anxiety and what I'm doing to him in real time. And yes, that's a very good observation you have, because sometimes they're just distracted. Other times they're like, okay, I need to just kind of focus on something else for a minute. We do that when we super concentrate, and then all of a sudden it doesn't work, or we need something to just get our mind off it and just look away. And that's exactly what he's doing. Good boy. And I'm a very verbal person with these horses. Good boy. And I want them to understand voice command, because I may need to have voice command on a horse. Good boy. This is really good. And I know that it doesn't look like anything's happening. You know, like we're not really accomplishing much, but this is huge in this bonding game here, and this little bit of discipline.
Well, being out there on his own at the end of the lead, one would think, well, that would make him more nervous, but it seems like you're teaching him to be confident in himself.
That's right.
And he figures that out, and that's when he starts
back.
Yawning and licking and.
Right. Now see, we could do this all day long, and now I have to, he's insisting to come in. I have to be just a little bit more forceful and work a little faster to reinforce it. No, it's not just saying, please don't do that. It's saying, don't do that. Before I was asking, and he was being very respectful about it. There we go. And I'll just step towards him a little bit more force. There. And now watch him. See, he's not put that leg forward. Okay. Good boy. Look at the attention he's putting on me. Head down. Good boy. Good. Look at that. See the blinking?
Yeah.
Look, blinking, licking,
blinking
chewing,
really hard.
yawning. Yeah. Good boy. Now look, he's not come forward with that foot. He's shifted position. And he wants to in the worst way. Look at that. See the blinking again? See those deep blinks? There we go. Good boy. I step away just a little bit again. See, I just stretched that out, and he's, nope. Good boy. And look at just the difference between moving his foot just a little bit. He knows where those feet are at. He knows what he's doing, trying to do purposely. And if he wants to balance himself, I'm okay with that. It's when he comes forward. And he really, look at that. He's really stretching. He's looking for a way back to come forward. Good boy. See how much more forceful I am with it. And I'm not really being forceful. It's just using my energy and my body quicker in order to get him to do what I want. Good boy. Again, chewing, yawning. This is a huge training moment for him. Good boy. Good boy. When they do something positive like that, I'm really going to praise him. Good boy. Back up. Good. Now, if I can just make his feet stay right where they're at, This is what I want. And you're not going to hold their attention, even if you want it to, which kind of is the other side of your question. When they look around, you need to give them a way to relieve that stress and that concentration. They have got to be able to do that. Good boy. Good. See the difference now?
He's so quiet now.
Very quiet, yep. And I really didn't touch him. I've pushed him back with my hand a little bit at times, but more of that is just my body positioning and using the energy in my body and pushing out like I've got a bubble of energy and I'm pushing it towards him, saying, you have to stay away from me. You have to stay where you're at. If I bring this bubble in and I ask him to come in, he may come in. This'll be a little bit later where we're working in a round corral and we'll get, good boy. He started to chew a little bit and then he dropped. Yeah, yep. Always watch. And our conversation is going to be very schizophrenic like this a lot because we'll talk and we'll see something that's so important that you need to talk to him or point something out. So everybody will have to bear with us through this. It's just the nature of it. We have some very poignant moments at times that are so important that if you don't talk about him, you miss him, and then you go on and I forget about him. You take him for granted. There we go. Good boy. And it's a cold morning. You know, these horses are usually kind of up and, you know, they're feeling really good. They need to move because it helps warm them. And look at him. He's really attentive, doing exactly what we asked him to do.
He's not trying anymore.
Nope. And really what we need to do at some point now is call this a training session. This is it. This is all we need to do. Good boy. It's good to maintain it, because what we can also do is we can overpressure these horses on a lesson and do too much, and then they just want to quit. They want, I need to get away from this. And we've all done that with something at some point where you're concentrating so hard. Good boy. Nice big sigh. Another good sign. You probably hear that.
You'll see horses a lot. I've gone to some clinics and watched people really struggle with their horses and be really tense and frustrated, and the horse will sit there, but not sitting there processing like he is right now. They dissociate. They leave.
That's right. You're
they don't
exactly
want to
right.
Be there.
They go to a happy spot somewhere else. They're
Yeah.
thinking about, you know, last week's place where they were in a nice warm sunshine and some fresh grass. Yeah, they're completely checked out. And that's right. When that happens, you're no longer bonding with your horse. You're no longer working with your horse. You have diverted from each other. And oftentimes the rider doesn't even recognize that. So yeah, that's a really good observation. Really good observation. And it's common. You know, we love horses. Almost every culture in the world reveres a horse. And why is that? I think it's because we are able to take an animal that is a very free spirit, has power, speed, some majesticness, and we're able to grab a part of that and control it, whether we like it for whatever reason, just because we like them, or, you know, we still use these for work and use them as a tool. And in order to do that, you have captured and contained all of this power and, you know, this beauty at our own hands. And there's a real ego involved in that, I think, for ourselves. But almost all of our cultures around the world really like the horse and have for eons. But we tend to not really recognize the horse as the horse in itself. And so we start to disassociate from what they mean, what they think, what they're doing, and that's a big loss.
It's really taking advantage of them and their willingness to learn and
absolutely
wanting to bond.
Yeah, and it really is. And training is nothing more than changing their behavior. Now, how you change it, it can be very wide and varied. You can bond with this horse, which I like to do and hope that I do. That's the goal. Or I know people who they'll beat the horse into submission. So you have that wide spectrum of the horse wanting to work from you or for you, or they're working in spite of you. And you really don't have that bondedness. And it's, I think, a lot in how people approach themselves, approach other people in their lives. And if you are a person that is able to do whatever you want by dominating and being an influence that is causing fear, but people do what you want out of fear, it works for them, right? Doesn't mean that they're always going to be there for him, that horse. Back up. Good boy. See that? He's trying. Good boy. And so that is one means, but you really aren't taking the animal into consideration when you do that. It's all about you. So if you use that ability to train and manipulate, and that's really all it is changing that behavior through some manipulation. If you do that with using their own behavior and language, man, how strong is that? You are using their own emotion and language to get them to do what you want. And when you go out, and I know you have this here, you have horses that you walk out and they come to you. That is not a fearful relationship.
Yeah.
That's a bonding relationship, and it's an important relationship. You can also have that go the other way, where they come out there because they see you and they go, oh, you've got something I want, and I'm going to take it from you.
Treats.
Yeah, treats, exactly. And it's the same as that bully person who does what they do. So you have to really keep that in mind and watch how this interaction goes, and whether that horse is starting to manipulate you or are you truly training it. And they do. They will manipulate you, and they will teach you what they want you to do if you're not careful. It's an interesting dynamic, and they're all different. They are so varied in their personalities, like we are, that it takes time sometimes to figure each other out.
So on the subject of training, what do we have to look forward to in the next day and a half, and also in the next 6 months?
That's a great question. We got short-term and long-term goals. This has been something that, this is actually a good thing that we never even planned on to happen. But when you see this training opportunity, you take it. You have to do that, because that's what training is. And really, the relationship at this moment isn't about you and I. It's about he and I, and you're another member of the herd. So you have to take advantage of those things. What we want to do is we want to establish a relationship between you and him. You've never seen him before this morning. So, and I have not much better of a relationship with him, right? Because he's been out and gone. So what we need to do is establish a relationship with the horse in which you are the dominant member of the herd. And we'll do that through his behavior. We'll work him in a round corral. I'm a really big proponent of working a horse in a corral, not touching them, but using their behavior to get them to move at the speed I want them to go, the direction I want them to go, and turn towards me and away from me, and to stop and to follow me. And they will, once they realize that, you know what, this person is making me move and I can't do anything about it. They are making me do everything that they want me to do. They must be the dominant member of the herd, because they do that out in the wild. So that's it's a technique that was passed to me by my dad and passed on to my sons, and you're the first real person I've ever taken any time that will learn some of the things that we do and how we do them and why we do them. So this will be great, and for the audience at large, this is a huge opportunity, I think, for all of us to really break this down and see what we want to do. So the short term is to get some bonding with him, and then in the long term, to get this horse to do anything that we ask him to do, calmly, quietly, and that includes up to the point where we can walk under his belly if we want. We can be on his back and reach down with a lariat, rope his hind leg, and pick it up off the ground. We can do anything that would normally be a fearful action to him, and him be non-reactive to it. So he'd be a safe horse for someone to get on and ride and enjoy and carry us, and go either do a job, say moving some cattle, packing a pack into the backcountry where you can take some food, some supplies, and spend some time and just enjoy life, or just go out and take an hour's ride along the river and look at the sights. Any and all of those things. So that's really our goal, is to make this animal not lose his identity and not lose his purpose, but to join what we need him to do with bringing what he has to it. That makes sense? I mean, it's kind of it's a broad, not really specific answer, but in the long term, that's what we want. What do we want from a horse?
Well, I think it's key that you mentioned not losing his identity, because I've worked at some ranches, and they're guest operations, and that's great, but they lose their identity. Some of them do, and
They do.
And it's sad to see.
When you see them lose their identity, they also seem to lose their will to live. They're just there in the moment, and you can see people who have given up, and the horses will give up. Yeah, yeah.
I like that, keeping his identity and letting him want to be there and
Right.
want to succeed.
And again, they want to please you. So the more that they are rewarded for that, the more they give you. I think we're really the big winners out of this. It isn't them. We're really the ones, when it works out like you want it to. We get the greatest benefit. Look at that, nice and quiet. This is exactly what we want. Almost asleep. His head's dropped, and he's not fearful. And one of the things that we do is, as I said, we praise through verbal, really feedback to him, and it's how we say it, not necessarily the words. They do associate the words. When we say whoa, they're going to stop because they start to learn that association. We teach them that. But that tactile, that touching, they like to be stroked. So I will use that as well. There'll be 3 different forms of praise that we'll give them. And especially we'll see that when we work in the round corral. We'll take the pressure off from what we're doing. That's a form of praise when they do it right. And then we tell them they're doing it right, and then we pet them and reinforce that. When you give them that many different types of feedback for doing a single thing correctly, that really builds that bond. And it really builds that desire for them to like you and what you're doing. Look at that. Oh, he's just almost asleep. Good boy. Good boy. Now, if we just move a little bit, watch his attention change. Head comes back up. He's watching. Now he's going to stretch.
Oh, good morning.
Man. Oh, yeah.
I notice sometimes when you use your energy with him, or like just now, his nostrils will flare and kind of wrinkle.
Mm-hmm. So do ours. You think about what we do. It's the same thing. We make these faces, these noses, and they're very oral in their communication. We don't necessarily pay that much attention to it, but they are with each other. And some horses are more than others as well. But yeah, they express themselves. Dogs do it. We do it. They do it. And it's just paying attention to that. Sometimes they'll do things and like, is that just by accident? And because not every time they do something does it necessarily mean they're responding to something we're doing either. You'll see that particularly happen in the summertime when you have a lot of flies, and they'll kick. Well, they're not upset with us. They're not frustrated. They're trying to get rid of a fly.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of that communication that can be misinterpreted. So and a lot of times we'll try to read too much into that too.
Mm-hmm.
Good boy. Now see how I approach him? See that? There. This is more of that, I'm not quite sure yet. Good boy. There we go. Good man. Good boy. Good boy. There we go.
So I notice there, and you mentioned this before we came in here, that when you touch him, he'll be a little bit standoffish, and then you touch him and he kind of just melts and he understands and wants to be there.
Right.
And how do you feel that compares to a horse who maybe was abused or just been treated harshly, and they never get that moment when you're touching them and they just melt?
Well, they can, and I have taken abused animals that were seriously abused. And how do we abuse them? What do we normally use to abuse them with? It's these things right here, right? Mm-hmm. And we hit them, we beat on them, we push them, we smack them. And so anytime they see a hand come at them like that, they're going to do that.
It's happened so often.
So often that's normal. They just know that that's what's going to happen. Before it ever happens, when you start to move your hand, they know that. So it takes time and repetition to get them to reteach them that this isn't a weapon. This is something that is going to be nice to them and that they like. And eventually they get it. And it's a moment what I call, and my dad used to call it, rolling over. And you will have this moment with him, with you, as we train, when all of a sudden he'll be fairly resistant to a lot of things. And then there's going to be a moment where you'll walk out one day or you're working with him and all of a sudden he's just changed. And that's that rolling over moment. And when they do that, that's when they've decided, okay, this is going to be all right. I can deal with this. And it's a wonderful time when it happens, a beautiful moment, because now you know this horse has started to bond with you. Everything is going to be good, and the training will really take off from there, and it really gets more solidified as well. So when that happens with an abused horse, you have to be very, very slow. Take your time. You're really quiet about it, because you're really handling them now with extra caution and extra care, because the horse knows nothing else other than pain is associated with these things flopping around that are attached to us.
And so in comparison, when he's standoffish,
Mm-hmm.
he just doesn't know what this means yet.
Right.
That's always going to be a pet or
Right.
Reinforcement.
Well, and he's really kind of in this flight mode. He's still more this wild horse type of behavior, because when I do this with him, he hasn't understood that that's good or bad, but it's in his space. It's in his personal. I do this to him. It's in his personal space, and you're like, wait a minute, that's not normal, you know. And it's nothing more than just a matter of self-preservation and survival on a very low-key level, but it's there, yeah. And so we've got a huge advantage with not working with him much, because he's a blank slate. What we do with him forms his view of us and his behavior. So it's really our responsibility, and it is completely and totally up to us. You know, some of these things you've asked and are great questions. What do we do? What do we want? And these are all great, but you know what? The bottom line is, this is almost a 1,000-pound animal, and you're about 140 pounds, maybe soaking wet. This animal can kill you. This animal can kill me. They can be dangerous, and training is a, oh yeah, you like that. That felt good. Training is a risk, and it's a risk assessed, risk based type of activity, and it's dangerous. These are unpredictable animals. If something happens behind him and he thinks it's a huge threat to him, all of a sudden he could bolt right through both of us, because he's going to take care of himself. We're just happen to be in his way. He's not trying to hurt us, but it can happen. So, you know, we have to put our own safety in mind first, and you know, if it's my safety or him, my safety comes first. That's just the way it is. You know, we just can't afford to be hurt, and you know, any injuries we have last a lifetime. But no, those are good. There's good questions about, you know, behavior. I mean, this is really good foundational type stuff, and I've been doing this a long, long time. So a lot of the things that I do, you kind of take for granted. So when you have a question, no matter how mundane you might think it is, don't be afraid to ask. And sometimes it may take me a moment to really formulate a good answer for you, because the answer can change depending on the context.
I see.
I mean, that's just the way it is. Everything is, you know, we're breathing and living in a real time here, and everything that we do changes our behaviors, changes their behaviors. So there is no cookie cutter training, in my opinion. I mean, there are some programs that do that. They say, this, you need to do this at this moment. You do this so many times, and it's done. And that is, to me, is not as successful. I've never had success trying that. The success that I base everything on is, can this animal do what I ask them to do when I ask them to do it? Consistently and competently. If they can, then we move on. Or there's times when you can't do that, so you move on, but then you come back to it. Because sometimes you just don't get something, something doesn't make sense to you, and so you say, you know what, I need to go do something else and come back to that. They do the same thing, and then they'll get it. They'll go, oh, things just kind of put together. So you can beleaguer something too much and not move on to it, so you have to move around. And that's going to be some of the instinct, some of the things I've viewed that I'll help you with, and we'll see that. And you may feel that yourself, and when you do, that's great. You know, go with that. It's okay. We could do this every day of our lives, and this horse would be fantastic. Nothing would bother him. But then we haven't ever gotten on his back. We've never moved on from this, and that's really what we need to do. So it's a really dynamic and fluid thing about training. I call it cookie cutter training. it doesn't necessarily work. You will largely get it to work, but there's a lot of areas where the horse is not finished. They're not trained in that, or they haven't done it. So when things come up, you take advantage of the behavior and the time and the moment to maybe take that training opportunity to drive it home or to reinforce it. So your question earlier was, what is our short-term goal and what is our long-term goal? And when is that goal? What you didn't ask is, when is that goal complete? And it's complete when it's complete. When people bring a horse to me to train, they'll say, okay, how long? I don't know. It depends on the horse. I'm not gonna quit until the horse is done. And if it takes 30 days to train a horse, and I have had some horses that have literally taken, in 30 days, I've done everything we need to do. And they're solid, they're good, and they're competent, and they consistently show that competence. Those are rare. I've also had to take 6 months before I was ever on a horse's really side of them where I could trust them. I've taken as long as 6 weeks just to be able to get up on their back, and normally you can do that in 10 days, and I take a lot of time on the ground. Some people, I've done it when I was younger and had a much larger ego, where I started training a horse in the morning and I was on him by that afternoon. That's great, but there's a lot of lessons that they didn't have in between that I was taking a chance on. So I take a lot of time on the ground. We do a lot of repetitive work, and training is like watching paint dry. If you're doing it right, nothing exciting happens, but you see all of these small things like they're seeing this morning. Now look what he's doing. I've asked him to come in, and this is okay because I'm rubbing him under here, and look how calm he is. I'm not pushing him away. Everything's okay. Oh yeah, good boy. He can't reach the spot between his jawbones. He'll have to go to a post, and he likes it. And so I've allowed him to come in. I've actually invited him when I started petting him and brought him in, and this is good. So now we're kind of finishing up with him with, oh, I can come in. And not because he wanted to come in, because I asked him to come in. That's the big difference. Huge difference there. Yeah.
All right.
Let's have you play with him for
Okay.
just talk to him. Just
Well, hi,
see if
buddy.
this interaction changes some.
Hey. So yeah, you can tell I'm a new
Here, I'll
person. Oh, thanks.
Yeah. Now look how the
Alrighty.
behavior changed.
Hey. So he moves to the side.
And he moves aside and away from you. Yeah. He doesn't get you yet. He's more in that avoidance mode because he doesn't know you, doesn't trust you yet. And he really fully doesn't know and trust me. But I'm the most trustworthy thing he's got right now. And that's an advantage you take of when you train. If you make them in a spot where they're uncomfortable in their training, but they bond with you, they will come to you for comfort, and that's when you can use that behavior to train them, and that discomfort to make them comfortable, and it drives that bonding moment even more and more between the two of you together. It's manipulation.
We're going to manipulate you, buddy. It's funny that he wants to, he seems really curious.
Mm-hmm.
He's standoffish, but he'll sit there and kind of is focused on me.
Yes.
But if I go to pet him,
right,
he wants it to be his idea
yes.
of who I am, and
that's right. There, he's starting to move in. So there you go. Now, what you could have done is you could have done the wrong thing. You did exactly the right thing here. He stepped forward, and you could have went, oh God, I want to touch him so bad, but he made the decision to come in, and then you would have said yes. You are really disciplining him right now by making him step back instead of succumbing to him. And look at him reach and try. Look at him smell. He's stretching, and that's okay.
It's funny when horses will nudge people and
right, a push.
Rip their shirts, and
they're pushing. Yes.
A lot of people think it's cute, and it's such a huge misconception.
That's right. They don't realize that horse is now being aggressive.
Yeah.
And it's a very passive aggressiveness, but it's aggressive nonetheless. Very good. Very good job. And look at that blink, 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 and everybody should be able to see that. Look at him blink, 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 blink. He's processing. Look at that lower lip. He's a little bit anxious.
It's pretty funny. Well, I don't know about funny, but he went through all of this with you just now.
Yep. But
now with a different person.
Absolutely. Start over, right?
Yep.
Yep. But we should do it with the consistency with what I did with him. The consistency that I provided should give this time with you a lot less time for it to occur, and it's already starting. See, he's already starting to keep a little bit more distance. Good job. Very good.
He is much more still.
Much more. Yep. And there's some distractions here, but that's okay. He's going to him, but he's coming back to you.
He's very light.
He's very sensitive. Yes, this is going to be a really nice, light, sensitive horse to ride when he's finished, and we will dampen a lot of that, which is we want to, because we don't want him so light that people can't handle him. If it was just me and I was the only one ever riding him, I'd want to try to maintain that, because I want to just think something to happen and have the horse respond.
Mm-hmm.
That is the ultimate in that bonding and that control between you and the horse. But that's not what we want for everything. So there you go. Look at that. Good. Chewing. Very good.
All right.
Very good.
Well, we are coming back at 11,
okay,
I believe. So
yeah, we'll set some things up, and I think we'll be able to work in the round corral later, right?
Yeah,
and we'll set that up.
Corral.
And I noticed it's a larger, it's about a 45-foot round corral. And what we'll do is I'll take the time, even myself, I'll just do it, and I'll make this a little bit smaller corral, and we'll talk about why we'll do that.
Okay.
When we do it, and the advantage for him, especially early, and then we'll change that later on as he gets better and better. So I guess we'll be back for everybody at about 11 o'clock, right?
Perfect.
Somewhere there? All right.
See you later.
Bye.
Say bye. Oh, he's super neat.
He's